Hey everyone, Howie and Kaylin here again. Welcome to our first official mini masterclass slash transmission. This is something that Kaylin and I have been wanting to do for a while, but something a little bit more on the concepts of the program, what we're seeing within the group, within our own personal lives, as themes that we can explore so we can have a deeper mental understanding of what we're doing. Because, like what we've talked about a lot, the more you can get the mind involved in this process and on board, the easier things integrate moving forward. If your mind feels like it doesn't have good frameworks or good understanding, sometimes it's harder to trust the process. So that's the intention behind these, is to give the mind something to work with, something to look forward to, and it's fun to learn and to grow and to experiment. So, we're actively doing this work. This is not coming from a place of we have it all figured out, but from real practical insights of us, again, in our own personal lives, but also what we're seeing across the group. So hopefully you'll find these helpful. And in terms of the calendar around these, we're going to aim to do two of these per month. So like one every 2 weeks. And again, keep an eye on the schedule in the app for when we're going to release these. But this one should be released on Mondays, is what we're thinking right now. So, Kaylin, thanks again for your time and excited to dive into this topic because I think it's super relevant and pertinent to what we're all going through right now. So, the topic of this mini masterclass is relief versus rewiring. There can be a lot around, is it okay for me to want to feel better, or am I somehow cutting class? Versus the actual rewiring, where it's not just about feeling better, but how do we actually land the plane in our lives? Once we're feeling better, how do we get more engaged with our lives? So we're going to talk about both phases and then practically, what do we do in each phase and what's the importance of each? So we have a few talking points. The first one is that ketamine absolutely creates relief, especially in the beginning. And in our previous Q&A, we talked about it. That window of relief is really important for creating spaciousness. So let's use the metaphor of you're holding your breath underwater and you're feeling the pressure and like you just desperately need oxygen. Well, of course, it's wise from that standpoint when you're struggling to get your head above water and get some air. And that's what we would call relief. Like, oh, I can finally breathe again. So that gasp for air is what ketamine gives us in the beginning. And that's incredibly important because without that, how do we even believe it's possible to breathe again? Right? We're trying to survive from that standpoint. So we honor relief completely in this program. And that really is kind of the first step when we're suffering and the weight of the world is on our shoulders. Do you want to add to that, Kaylin?
Yeah, what's coming up for me is that I think there is some resistance, and we've noticed it with some members in the community of just wanting to feel better. And I just want to take this as an opportunity to remind you that it's okay to honor exactly where you're at and what your body is asking for. And it's not that this work is essentially linear, but it is cyclical. And if you don't have the resources and you don't have the capacity, then the whole rewiring part is just kind of this like abstract idea until you create safety in the body, until you get relief in the body. So I think too, just if you take away anything from today, it's knowing wherever you're at is perfect. And if you're at the phase of relief, that's beautiful.
Exactly. You can't rewire if you don't have hope, if you don't have energy, if you don't have a catalyst to get yourself back in the game. Is
There's no
ketamine the only
reference point.
way? No, right? Like obviously, there's lots of ways you can experience relief. But ketamine is a very tried and true way. Most people that if they just take ketamine and really did nothing else, they will feel better. And
Mhm.
that's amazing that we have that tool. It's just important to understand that getting that exhale is a phase. It's not the end of the journey. It's like you're underwater, you need an exhale, you get it, you get back into a natural breathing rhythm, And then once you're feeling better, it's like, how do I invite myself back into the pressure?
Yeah.
But now it's a choice. We're not just unconsciously drowning like life's just dunking our head underwater. It's like I'm choosing to get back into the game. And we can follow that natural rhythm of I hold my breath, right? And I build capacity, and then I come back up for air. Then I can hold my breath a little longer, then I come back up for air. So I think that metaphor has been helpful for me because I know for myself personally, I was in a season of feeling like my head was being dunked underwater for like years on end. And like there was nothing more that I wanted than to just not feel that. Like get this pressure off of me for 2 freaking seconds. So I get it, and it's super important. And there's nothing more that I want for people that feel that way to experience relief and to realize that the sun's still shining. All right, number two, and this is kind of moving into the rewiring, is that relief is a doorway. It's not the final destination. So if we can just understand that relief is incredibly important, but it's not the thing you're just going to experience for the rest of your life, like you're never going to have a tough day again. Like we were just talking before we started this, it's like yesterday for me, I felt exhausted. And it was like, all right, well, how can I participate at the level of just feeling tired? Like, I don't feel great today. So I took a nap. And after I took a nap, I felt a lot better. I know that can seem super obvious, but sometimes we can get caught up in this, oh, I didn't feel good today. I must be failing. Like, why don't I feel that relief anymore? Usually, that's because you're balanced out enough to actually get back into the natural rhythm of life, the ebb and the flow. So I actually view it as success if you can honor what life's presenting. Okay, I feel tired today. I'm going to honor my system and I'm going to rest and I'm going to do things that are more self-care oriented. So again, this is what relief can create the spaciousness for, is so that we can start relating to the ebb and flow a little bit more balanced.
Yeah, I love that. And it's funny as you're talking, I keep hearing relief, rewire, relationship. And I think if you had to put it in, a linear order, it would look something like that because like we're sharing, yes, we want you to feel better quickly, and it's amazing when that happens, but the end goal isn't to always stay there and to stay up. It's about to become so resourced and to have the tools that you begin to relate to your own aliveness, your body, your triggers in a completely new way. And I think as you go through this program and as you work deeper with the medicine, you start to notice that it does kind of have, like I was saying, like a cyclical flow where, you start to feel better and you're kind of like riding this high and you get this new norm, and then life is going to present you an opportunity not to essentially prove it, because I hate when they say life will test you, but essentially, yeah, like now what does it look like from this identity and from this, level of healing to experience the same trigger or the same wound or something in that. And again, it's not that you're doing something wrong. It's about how can we begin to change how we relate to life and relate to ourselves within it. So I think that, for so many of us, it's not about it looking perfect. It's about learning how to relate to it differently so that we don't feel like, we're in survival mode through our lives. That every little thing that happens doesn't essentially rip the rug underneath our feet and send us in a spiral, right? Can I stay outside my window of tolerance? Can I be in activation and still be resourced enough to respond instead of react? That's real power. And that's the work that I believe we're doing here.
You nailed it. And I think I really resonate with the participating while activated because, like, for a long time
Yes.
in my journey, I felt like me feeling activated or stressed or triggered was like somehow a moral failure. Like I wasn't doing
Like
it
you're
good
wrong.
enough yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that puts so much extra pressure and strain on my relationship to what's happening. Because like my body, it's lived through a lot, like all of us. It's like, of course you feel this way. Like, no duh. But how do I still participate, even if I have like a baseline level of scarcity or fear or whatever the baseline might be that's kind of tense? Like maybe I can't show up happy go lucky right now, right? Like maybe I'm still a little closed off to life. Well, th what's wrong with that? I can still participate there. And if you don't have the pressure that you have to be something you're not, it's like, cool, I go to the grocery store and I'm not smiling at every person, but I'm still here and I'm doing it at the level I can. I think the more we can honor that, the rewiring really happens through participation. And that's point number three. So when we choose to say, I don't have to feel perfect to be engaged in my life, I can still do it honestly. And for me, just like I've gone through a very long period doing this work where I've had an underlying baseline of stress. Like I have a young daughter, I have this business, I have a lot of responsibility. And when you're an entrepreneur, like there's a lot of instability and insecurity in building something. So I've always, not always, but like in this phase, there's been kind of like this underlying hypervigilance, like not knowing how it's all going to work out. But because I have responsibilities, it's forced my hand in terms of participation. So I learned kind of the hard way that I can participate even if I'm stressed out. I can
Yeah.
participate even if I'm scared or I have uncertainty. Like that doesn't have to define my level. Do I like that? Obviously not. Would I rather feel happy and like it's easy all the time? Yeah, but that's not what life serves up. So at a certain point, we have to realize that you're not in control of that part, but you are in control of how you choose to participate, regardless of what's happening internally. Sometimes that needs to be oriented towards self-care. Sometimes that needs to be, I'm willing to walk with the uncertainty, with the contraction, with the hypervigilance, because that's what life's requiring me to do right now.
Yeah. I want to say too, I think yes to everything that you just said. And why is that so hard? Because if you look at one of the biggest wars on humanity or one of the biggest wounds, essentially, it is a disconnection from our bodies, our disconnections from sensation, a disconnection from emotion. And it's almost like I see this a lot in my work with somatics is that there's a hierarchy in our mind of emotions, that joy is good, happy is good, they're up here, success is up here, but uncertainty, fear, nervousness, they're all down here, grief, bitterness. And when we essentially agreed to come here and have a human experience, we said yes to the whole totality of aliveness. And that encompasses every emotion, right? And I think when we begin to look at these as signals, as information, as wisdom, it's so much easier to take out that hierarchy or belief in this good, bad, right, wrong, gray and white kind of mentality, and really begin to notice it's safe to feel and everything is welcome and to move with this. I will tell you some of my best art, some of the best things I've ever done, created in my life came from more like fire, anger, and Shakti energy than it did from bliss. Right? Some of the most beautiful art comes from heartbreak, right? So I think too, on a personal level, for me, one of the best gifts that psychedelics gave me was this different relation to my body and my emotions. Through ceremony or through journeys, I could sit there and be like, I can sit with this level of discomfort. I can sit with this level of sadness, and it's safe to still move in a way despite that, or with that, or because of that, right? So I think that, when we're looking at what it looks like for this work not to be perfect or believing it has to be high vibe or feel good. Yes, that's like scratching the surface, and there's so much wisdom and beauty and healing when we integrate and welcome all the other emotions with it.
Exactly. And part of that feeling good, it's like getting back to our first point, if you've been drowning in your life, well, that's the other end of the spectrum where you're only experiencing the contraction. So it's like that's not balanced either, but they're extremes. Like thinking you're going to be happy all the time is the same thing as thinking you're going to be miserable the whole time.
Yeah.
It's a balance. It should be like 50-50 if you're actually living a balanced experience. Of course, you'll have times where maybe you feel better, like over a month, like, oh, 3 weeks I felt great, and 1 week I didn't feel great. And then you'll have some months where it's like 3 weeks, I didn't feel great, and 1 week I felt great. But like overall, it's kind of 50-50. So I think that to Kaylin's point, being able to be okay with discomfort, not pretending to like it, right? Of course, it's uncomfortable. That's why we call it discomfort. We're not going to like the way that feels. But can you get to a greater level of depth that just because I don't like the way it feels, it doesn't mean I have to hand the keys to the car to that feeling to decide what I do or don't do in terms of my participation. A practical example for me, my wife asked me if I could help out a little more, like keeping the house clean. And I, because, like, oh, I'll do the dishes later, like I have work to do, whatever. Like it wasn't a priority for me. And so I set up a little experiment with myself. It's like, I'm just going to do the dishes right away. And I noticed I set that agreement, and it's like, I know I'm probably not going to feel like doing it right away. It's when I set that agreement with myself and, I eat and it's like, oh, time to do the dishes. I felt that avoidant energy. I felt that energy of like, I'll just do it later. But what I noticed is that I was able to still do the dishes while simultaneously feeling like I didn't want to. And just by doing it, even though I didn't feel like it, I proved to myself that I don't have to feel like it to do.
Hmm.
And then I actually felt much better after because it was just done and I didn't have to think about it. Plus, I was felt good that I was contributing, to my household in that way, and I was making things easier for someone else. But it was a big eye opener for me. It's like, where does this avoidant energy captain the ship in other areas of my life? Like, where am I
Hmm.
not participating because I'm letting this energy decide what I do and don't do? So once you start to prove to yourself that you can kind of do anything feeling any way, like if you're feeling agitated and you got to go to the grocery store, you don't have to go pretend like you're happy, but you can still go get the thing done. So I think it's the honoring of how you feel, like we're not trying to mess with that, but also understanding that we can listen to it without giving it full agency over our
Yeah,
life.
love that.
So another big thing with ketamine is the window of neuroplasticity. And I know many of you have heard of that. But essentially, after these ketamine sessions, it's almost like you loosen up your old wiring. So your thought, emotional, behavioral wiring kind of gets temporarily deleted in a sense. So you have this really prime opportunity to relate to life differently. So it's not from the standpoint of I'm going to control my thoughts and I'm going to control my emotions in that thing. It's more of like I can reassign what behaviors I do independent of the thoughts or emotions. So going back to the dishes example, it's like I feel like I don't want to do it. I have the thought that I'll do it later, which leads to the action of me not doing it, procrastinating on it. Well, I could still have the same thought of like I'll do it later and the same feeling of I don't want to do it, but I could change the behavior.
Hmm.
I'll do it anyway. So this is how we actually can use these windows to not rely on always having positive thoughts or always feeling good, but really assigning new behaviors independent of the thoughts or emotions going on. So I think that's the biggest way because in terms of behavior, that's actually where we have the most agency. We don't have a lot of agency in terms of controlling the way we feel or controlling the way we think. Yes, it is true with ketamine that generally your mind's going to find more peace and you are going to feel better during that window. So that helps in terms of ingraining these new wires, so to speak. But if we can really make it towards like, it doesn't matter what my mind's thinking, it doesn't matter what my body's feeling, I can still participate in the way that I choose to. That's what I really think is foundational with the neuroplastic window. What do you want to add to that, Kaylin?
Yeah, as you're talking, it's just making me think like this is the heart of integration. So many people say like, well, I don't know how to integrate and I don't really know what that means or what that looks like. And at the simplest level, it's looking at who are you choosing to be? What are those choices you're making? How are you choosing to show up? Are you choosing to do the dishes or not do the dishes, right? And I think it gets bypassed all the time because it seems simple, right? But just because it's simple doesn't mean that it isn't profound. And when you actually draw deeper awareness and curiosity to your behaviors, to your thoughts, to your actions every day, well, then you actually have the power and the choice to create a new reality and to truly transform. And, the beauty of this medicine is that heightened neuroplasticity and neurogenesis. So, yes, we have this ability to rewire and recalibrate our brain, which is incredible. And what I love about it is it creates these new reference points and accesses in the brain that we didn't even know existed. So you start to think differently and feel differently and move differently and behave differently, right? It shows you this realm of possibilities that your current paradigm couldn't even touch before. Right. And when you take those beautiful ahas and awarenesses and insights and really integrate them into action, that's how you create embodiment, right? So this piece, like rewind and listen again, because this piece, if you really took some of these just simple things and picked one thing, like a 1% aligned action every day that brought you closer to that ideal version of reality or feeling or person you want to be, that alone with the medicine could take you leaps and bounds.
Exactly. Action is the language of physical reality because it's your body taking action, right? We can't just sit there and think about things and affect physical reality.
No.
It's what we do. Yes, there's who are we while we do it, because of course our actions can be unconscious. That's why we have to bring them into the light of our awareness. Oh, I see how my behavior when I'm thinking negatively and feeling contracted results in a certain way. We can see that clearly. So if we assume that we can't long term control the thoughts and control the emotions, that's more like weather, then okay, let's assume I'm going to have days where I'm not thinking the best. I'm going to have days where I'm not feeling the best. Great. Well, what do I do on those days? Because I still get to choose that. But if I don't make that choice, it's kind of like our automatic survival programming is going to make that choice for us. And that's why it feels like we're looping because we can't make a new choice because our choices are so connected to the way things feel or the way we're thinking about things. Which, again, if you kind of relax the idea that that's yours to micromanage and just trust that, yeah, some days maybe I'm lower energy, but if I'm lower energy, that's associated with taking these actions towards self-care. If I'm higher energy, maybe that's aligned with actions that are more creative or social, whatever. So you can kind of start getting feedback from life. Like, this is how I'm feeling today. Today I feel tired. Okay, when I'm tired, I honor my system. The action I take is I go take a nap or I go take a bath or I do some stretching. But this is where the real rewiring happens because one of the big misconceptions with this work is that the rewiring is there to micromanage the way you think and feel.
Yeah.
Short term, that can be true, and that's why it can be deceiving because when you do ketamine and now everything's rainbows and unicorns and I'm feeling so great, we can start to assume that that's the way life's always going to be instead of understanding, yeah, this is you getting a break from the pressure.
I want to add something because it kind of ties into a piece we touched on earlier in this call where we talked about, welcoming the whole totality of emotions, being triggered and still choosing to move with it. And I think an important piece to bring into this is also holding the awareness that rewiring sometimes isn't going to be the thing that feels the best. It's not always going to be the thing that brings you the most like bliss and happiness in that moment. It could feel like nervousness, it could feel like anxiety, it could feel like avoidance. But it's also understanding that because when we're not actively choosing and creating the life that we want, like Howie was saying, our default mode network, our survival patterns, they take over. And what do they love? They love safety, they love comfort, they love everything that's familiar, right? So, knowing too that if you are feeling these emotions through the rewiring process or sensations of resistance, of wanting to collapse, of wanting to retreat and not do it, that is also a signal that you are right on track and that those old survival patterns are clinging to hold on. And when you can connect with your body and say, oh, I'm noticing that there's a little fear here, or I'm noticing there's a little resistance, and you get more curious about it and support yourself and still do it anyway, that's going to start rewiring that neuroplasticity or those new pathways in your brain to really help making that like the new pathway and the new choice and the new default. But if in the beginning it feels more contractive and resistant, you're not doing anything wrong. Like that's the intelligence of the body trying to keep you safe. And like that's perfectly okay. I think sometimes that's missed. Everyone's like, well, it didn't feel good, so I didn't do it. It's like, no, like it's supposed to not feel good, right? It's like baptizing a cat essentially when we're rewiring. Like it's not always going to feel the best. But you can also get a little bit of indication with this of how it feels after. Right. So, like you said, I noticed when I did the dishes and then right after I felt really good and then I didn't have to worry about it. I made a pledge that I was going to start doing cardio and I really don't love it. Right. But I've been doing it now for a few weeks. I'm like, oh, my heart feels strong. My body feels strong. I get energy after it. I feel good after it. It doesn't always feel good doing it, but notice what happens after you make a different choice. And that can kind of give you insight as to, is this an alignment for me and my essence and my energy and end to
You
engine?
nailed it. And that starts with making the choice. Because if we're just defaulting with the choice, meaning it's not really a choice, it's an unconscious reaction,
Yes.
then we can't get clear feedback on how it actually affects our energy. So using the cardio example, it's like if cardio is used as an unconscious reaction to avoid your life, as an example, you might actually be burning yourself out and not
Yeah.
even know it, right? Like you might be in a day where it's like it'd be better for you to take a nap than to go do cardio. But because we're hell bent on being like hyper productive or high output all the time, we're actually not honoring our system and it depletes the little energy we do have. And then
Yep.
we end up the next day more exhausted. So it starts with, okay, like the cardio example, I think is great because it's like there's resistance to like, okay, today's a day where I could go walk on the treadmill, for example. Like I'm not really that exhausted to where I couldn't do it, but I don't feel like doing it. Like I don't like doing it. It doesn't feel fun. That's usually the cue when there's more resistance in that avoidant energy versus like today's really a day where I should prioritize rest.
Yep.
We can't have honest energetic discernment if we're not deliberately making choices. And as you start to build self-trust, you can push the comfort zone a little bit. So, like, you don't have to go do the scariest thing ever just to prove to yourself that you can do things with fear. But what's a gentle step you can take to move in that direction, to start demonstrating to your system that, hey, we're safe to move with whatever energy is in the system. And as you start to do that and you realize, oh, my feelings and thoughts really don't have to determine what I do and don't do, that I actually take actions that are supportive of honoring my life and my body, that's where it gets fun because that's where you're liberated. You don't have to wait for perfect conditions to participate in life. It's like I can show up honestly with however the weather is. And I think that's super important. But we want to bring it down to practicality, like Kaylin mentioned earlier. Some of these things don't seem profound, but they compound over time. They give you your power back, your agency back to participate at a level that still honors and respects your body. So, action is the core of rewiring because action is the thing you have the most agency in. You don't have a lot of agency in terms of your energy for the day. Like, sure, we might notice certain things we're doing that deplete energy, like I mentioned before, and thoughts. So, okay, how can I choose something when I have a tough day? Still make it a
Yep.
conscious choice, and then you'll get a lot clearer feedback on how that choice supports you. All right, next point here is that the relief and we've kind of touched on this already, but can actually be a catalyst for the deeper work. When you create spaciousness and you're no longer just thinking about like how you're going to scrape through the day, you can actually you have the bandwidth to actually look at things, whereas before you're just like running around with your hair on fire. So relief
Yeah.
creates that opportunity like, okay, we have a pause, like let's take a peek at what's going on within my wiring. And through that awareness, this is really what unlocks the opportunity to make these changes. Just one thing I want to re-emphasize here, though. One of the big parts of rewiring is not associating somatic feelings with success or failure. Because with ketamine work, it's like, oh my God, I felt so great for 3 months, and here I am feeling low energy and depressed again. That isn't has nothing to do with success or failure. That's life. Life, sometimes you're just gonna have crappy days. So that's a huge thing that we can bring to our awareness. How much are we associating the way we feel in the body with right versus wrong? And I know Kaylin hit on that already. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, and not to repeat myself, but I think, one of the biggest breakthroughs for me or just on the healing journey was realizing that there is no good or bad emotions. There isn't a right way to feel and a wrong way to feel. Like it's a very just gray area. It's not black and white. And so many people who are drawn to this work are coming from really challenging backgrounds, right? Rough childhood, trauma. Maybe you were in the war, maybe you're struggling with some form of mental illness, right? But whatever it is, you have to realize that it also lives in the body. So much of this work people think is about like changing our mindset or changing how we think, but really our trauma and our past creates a somatic imprint in our bodies. And the way that that gets communicated is in sensation, is in emotion. And why this medicine can be such a powerful tool and ally is because it helps us create a safe space to feel, where we don't have to relive a story, we don't have to relive our trauma, but we do create enough resource and safety within ourselves that we begin to feel. And for many of us, for the first time in a very long time. So, to Howie's point, you can't take a somatic experience or an emotional experience to rate your success because for the first time for many of us, we're just beginning to get caught up and feel all the things that we never were safe enough to feel. We were told they were too much, not enough, right? And so just know if some of this work is bringing up a lot of emotion for you. If you're feeling more constrictedness or whatever it is in the body, this is a sign that healing is taking place. If all of a sudden you're starting to feel emotions stir and these releases happening, that's a clear indicator that the energy is emoting from the body, right? And to me, that success, some of the best sessions I have probably would not be anything to write stories to you guys about, right? But they were so cathartic and healing in all these feelings and repressed emotions that I never gave space to witness, right? So knowing that everything that you're feeling is welcome and it's really just changing the meaning or the relationship that you have attached to that emotion that can really give you the space to heal it. And that would be my little
You nailed it.
signpost.
Like on a personal share, I did not cry for 10 years straight, not one tear. Like I was so hardened to sadness, grief, for a lot of different reasons. But once the floodgates opened on that, like I had a lot of experiences where I was emotionally broken down. And at the time, I did view that as failure,
Yeah.
not strong. It wasn't until later that I really was like, oh, like good. Like I'm glad that I can let emotions move freely in my body and that I'm not like trying to maintain some identity of someone who doesn't cry or is tough and doesn't get hurt. It's like those are all protective things, and I get why I became that hardened. Like my life really was about trying to maintain safety through control.
Yeah.
And shoving
Mm,
emotions down was, a form of that control. But if you can really see it, it's like it's all beautiful. It's all part of the process. We don't have to like it.
yeah.
You don't have to like having a big cry. But yeah, do you usually feel cathartic after a big release? Yeah, you do. We don't have to like feeling angry or feeling resentment or feeling regret or guilt or shame. It's not about liking any of it. It just doesn't really matter if you like it or not. And I think that's a tough pill to swallow sometimes.
Yeah. And something I just want to add to that is something beautiful really happens when you stop resisting emotion and sensation. And even by just carving out a safe space to be with yourself and to be with your body and just begin to notice what's here, right? Just beginning to start that relationship, you're going to begin to notice that how you feel begins to shift simply through awareness to it. You don't have to create a new meaning, you don't have to do some healing ritual to change it, but simply through being with it, it begins to shift. And simply by creating space to feel, you're going to get deeper insights and understandings about why that's there. Because so often we, think, oh, this person said this to me, and you get super upset and you lash out on them, and you think, oh, I hate Johnny. Johnny's such a jerk. Just use it as an example. But really, Johnny was just the symptom. He wasn't the root. There's a reason why his words were able to impact and affect you in the way that they did, because there's a deeper aware or information there, right? There's a deeper wound. So as you begin to just create space to sit and to be with things, you're going to realize that there's something so much deeper that's asking to be witnessed, that's asking to be felt. But first, it starts with just creating the space.
Exactly. And I know we talked about it on a previous call, but being able to bring your awareness into the field of sensation is, if you're able to get your awareness there, it like automatically shifts it. Because as
Yes.
soon as there's no longer a filter on what it is, because what the mind likes to do is like, okay, this sensation's uncomfortable. So it classifies it as uncomfortable. Then it slaps a label. This is anxiety.
Yep.
And so now you're filtering your experience through the lens of the mind that only has the reference point of the past to look at.
Yep.
Like, oh, anything that's uncomfortable must be anxiety. Then your brain goes into scanning for threat for why the anxiety is there. When if you just get into the raw sensation in the body and the felt experience and like get interested and curious about it, like where is it in the body? What color is
Hmm.
it? What texture is it? You start describing it more neutrally, not with words that have negative meanings attached to them. You start to realize that the energy might not even be anxiety. It could be, but it very well could have nothing to do with that. So
I
now
just
you
want to
have no
share. Oh,
contact. Yeah, go ahead.
sorry, I didn't mean to
No
cut you
worries.
off. I'm
No
sorry.
worries.
A really cool thing that I learned is that a true somatic experience or energy running through your body loops in 45 seconds and then it dissipates. So anything that lasts longer than 45 seconds is a story that you've created in your mind about the thing that you felt in the first place. So you ever notice how you start looping in a story about, something that happened or something that you're afraid is going to happen, and you just start and you can't get out of it? It's because you're essentially created a story and a meaning to something that was just supposed to be felt, right?
Exactly.
So
It's animals all the time.
exactly, they shake and they move on and it's
Yeah.
over.
They don't have a whole story about why the lion was chasing them. It's like
Yeah,
it chased me, the threat's gone, I shake it off, and I keep going.
exactly.
We have the ability to create meaning, and so that's awesome. But the way we create meaning is more of as a predictive model to keep ourselves safe. So what
Yes.
happens when we've dissociated from the body, because the body at some point we decide it's too uncomfortable or too overwhelming to stay in, is we find refuge in the mind and the narratives. So, well, everything's going to work out. Like I can see a future where everything's fine and we find safety in that. But as soon as life starts to get crazy, like it is right now, you can't find safety in a predictable future. It's like, I don't see how any of this is going to work out. Like that can seem very disorienting and very scary, but what it actually does is it gets rid of the easy escape route for your consciousness so that the only place you can go is either to fully dissociate or to come back to the body. So the mind's done being the easy way to get out of the game. So what's great about that is when the mind can't find a solution to keep you safe, and that's sometimes what we call mental breakdown. It's like I cannot figure out the problem of my life. Well, mind surrenders, waves the white flag, and now it's no longer gatekeeping consciousness from the felt experience. It's no longer working so hard to try and create meaning out of everything because it's like, what's the point if it's not going to keep us safe?
Mhm.
So if some of us are at our wits' end and we're like, I don't see a future where things work out, that's actually a really good opportunity to find safety in the present moment because that's all there is anyway. The rest of it is a story. So it's liberating at this phase that we're in, although I know it doesn't feel that way. It doesn't seem that way mentally. But when things get too chaotic for your mind to solve, the only thing that's left is presence. And so you can now actually get into the felt experience. It's like the filter on reality dissolved. And to Kaylin's point, if you're in direct contact with the felt experience, it just moves. It doesn't take that long. So it's like, oh, I have a wave of contraction. So what? It's gone in a minute and then you keep going. Then you have a wave of expansion. It's like, sweet, I get to ride this wave too. So yeah, a lot of fun with that. Go ahead,
Like,
Kaylin.
I just want to give 5 quick practical things that you could do to self-regulate and connect with your body. If you're feeling sensation, if you're feeling emotion that you don't know what to do with, and maybe it feels overwhelming, 5 quick resources: breath, movement, sound, touch, and stillness. These are all ways that you can really begin to get out of the head and drop deeper into the body. So, if you have these emotions and sensations that come up that feel too big to deal with, really looking at how can I become self-resourced? Maybe it feels good to kind of shake and move the body and bounce around. Maybe there's a sound that wants to emote from the body. Right? Maybe it feels good to take a moment and breathe and be still and drop in. But these are all tools that you can begin to use to really get out of the head, out of the story, out of the meaning, and really start interacting and getting into relationship with the body. And just by doing these quick few little things, you're going to notice like how quickly the energy, the sensation, the intensity in the body begins to shift. So those would just be a few little of the things I'd like to add.
And I completely agree. And ultimately, what all these things are doing is they're moving awareness into the body. And like we talked about on another call, the body is your anchor point into present moment reality. Your mind can move across timelines, right? Like it could forecast into the future, it can look at the past. It's not bound by space and time. Your body is. So whenever you bring presence to your breath, or you touch your heart, your bare feet on the grass. All these things can ground you back into physical reality, and that's why these things are so powerful. I think one important thing, just as a final point on this bullet, is if we do this with the intention of becoming more intimate with what's here, as opposed to it being another tactic to try and change what's here, it's a big difference in the way your nervous system responds. Because think about like a parent telling you what to do all the time, always trying to change everything about you. It's freaking annoying. And that's how we treat ourselves. Like you're not safe to feel the way you feel. It's like screw you. Like why do I have to be happy? Like that's not what's here right now. But if it's like I'm here to be intimate with you, you don't have to be any different. I just want closer contact with what's real right now. The nervous system loves that. The body loves that. And that's how you get to, you're not pretending for it to be any different than it is. You're in honest contact with reality. That's what allows your nervous system to stay open enough for that energy to move in the 45 seconds. But if it's feeling nitpicked and critiqued and criticized, like it's going to stay shut off. And now you're going to be dealing with this thing for a really long time. Go ahead, Kaylin.
No, I think that's perfect.
right, next point. We kind of touched on this already, but we'll just hit on it one more time. Rewiring is relational, not mechanical. Now, just to simplify that, rewiring is a posture or an orientation towards life versus life's just a vending machine that all of a sudden just gives me whatever I want on command. So this isn't about like you have no influence over life, but it's a co-creative experience. It's like there's a lot of factors. And a good example is like sometimes we get what we want, right? It's like, oh, I manifested that. Like I'm such a good manifester. Well, what about all the other stuff that you don't get? Like, did you manifest that too? Depends what perspective you're speaking from. But from a practical human perspective, you can't take credit for the whole thing that we don't understand. It's like sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But what you are in control of is your posture towards life. Do you trust that life's giving you what you need, even if it's not what you want? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But the fundamental rewiring is if you can start proving to yourself over time that life always gives you what you need, and about half the time it's not going to be what you want, then you can start riding the wave. So instead of insisting that it always look the way you want it to, you trust your ability to ride whatever the weather brings up. And so mechanical would be more like I'm rewiring and happiness as a static state. Like good luck. Like that, I've tried that. I don't know anyone truly living like that, where they're just genuinely happy all the time. But I do see people that have a posture towards life. Like when life's tough, they're not taking it as a moral failure. It's like I'm in a tough season right now, but I'm hanging in there and I know I'll get through it and I'm learning a lot through it. I don't like it, but it is what it is. That's more honest than just every day rainbows and unicorns. I don't trust that personally, but bringing it back to the practical human experience. Can you relate to the ups and downs differently? That's more of what the clean slate that ketamine gives you is. Then every day you're going to wake up feeling like it's heaven on earth. That's not my experience. I don't really see that as a long-term experience for anyone.
This, and I know we've touched on this a few times, but I will just speak from personal experience. The best gifts that this medicine has given me was an opportunity to really meet myself differently, but also life. And it's not that through this therapy that everything just got magically perfect or how I thought it needed to be, but how I got to show up and how I got to start relating to my life changed. And through me changing and viewing it from a different perspective or lens, it almost seemed like things just magically started to get better. And it's not that anything essentially changed, it's just that the way I saw it changed. And I feel like that's what Howie's really speaking to is that it's not always waiting for the sun to be shining and, the weather to be perfect, but it's looking at how can I still show up and meet life fully in my power despite it? And where's my responsibility in this? And I think that we really get an opportunity through this work to really let go of victim mentality and that woe is me and life is happening to me and really moving into radical responsibility, really moving into sovereignty, really moving into power. And again, that doesn't mean perfect, but it means raw and it means true and it means honest. And I can show up today and I was really tired. I was yawning and, it was hard to get here today. And I'm still here and I'm happy that I'm here. Do you know what I mean? And that's just a way that we can begin to look at things differently. And the way that we see things and the lens that we perceive things change the emotional feeling of that reality. So you will always go first. You don't have to wait for life to be perfect and change, but you can change how you see it.
You nailed it. And I think a big part of the reason why feelings, like especially contracted feelings, feel so dense is because of the existential crisis that is created from us not participating because of the feelings. So
Yeah.
when we play this game of waiting around for perfect conditions until we participate, we have this existential crisis of I'm not living, I'm just existing. And so everything gets compounded from that because it's like, okay, I feel tired. I feel angry, I feel hurt, life's against me, whatever. All those things are making us stuck. Like we've given our power away to the circumstances. We've given our power away to the way we feel. We don't have agreements with ourselves in place that give us the ability to participate on low capacity days because we think our participation has to be this big grandiose thing like it did when we were like the best version of ourselves in the past. It's like honest participation. We're not asking you to go do CrossFit if you haven't been to the gym in years. We're saying, what's an honest step you can take consciously choosing to participate? That might be taking a nap. That might be Netflix and chill, but choose it. Don't just
Yeah.
float adrift waiting for someone to come save you because that's not how it works. By you choosing to participate from the level you are, is exactly how you get the momentum going. That's how you increase capacity. That's how you increase self-trust. Because you're not saying, life, I need it to be summer to participate. It's, I'll choose to move even though it's the season I hate.
Mm.
That's true for me. Like, I hate winter and I'm in Minnesota, and it's a perfect, real example. I could sit here and cry about it all day, about how much I wish I was in San Diego still. Or I can get creative with what I can do here. And I can trust that life is focusing me in certain ways right now. And there's a reason behind that. So, yeah, I can't go golfing, right? In winter, I love golfing, but I can focus on my family. I can focus on my business. I can focus on going to the gym. There's still a lot I can do, even though it's not the situation that I would choose. So, if we start looking at our life that way, I wouldn't choose to feel like this every day, but I'm done waiting. I'm just going to wait till I'm dead. It's like, or am I going to choose to play now? So ketamine, the reason why I want to emphasize this point is ketamine does bring back energy. It does jumpstart the battery, but you're kind of borrowing that in a way. It's like I'm trading winter for summer for a couple months. It's like, great, but like winter's still important. Like you're not cutting class on winter, but can you create enough momentum and enough rewiring that you can relate to winter differently when you have to finish that course? That's more of what this is than you get like a free get out of jail free card and now it's just summer. Winter teaches us a lot of things, but if we can use that jump start to rewire our relationship towards the seasons, still participate at the level we can, then we can easily pay back that winter that we owe. So I like to think of it that way so we're not just taking out greater loans from the bank. Like I'm going to keep taking a loan on summer, and then you have a lot to pay back in terms of a long season of winter. So I'm not sure if that made sense, kind of different analogies going there, but all of it's important. The season of low capacity and feeling like it sucks, even though we hate it, still has so many gifts inside of it that we would never choose consciously. So life has to orient us in a way to still go through it because we wouldn't choose it. So the season is working for you. Like I said, I don't like it when it's hard, but I trust that it being hard is the point. Anything you wanted to add to that, Caitlin?
And again, it's always coming back to that relational piece. And every season is on purpose, right? Even though, like how he's saying, we don't always see the grander version of why we're feeling sad or why we have lower energy one day. But what I would really love for you to take away from this is that you feeling low energy, or you feeling sad, or you feeling more introverted, or whatever it is, isn't the problem, but you shaming yourself or making yourself wrong for feeling that way is what creates the bigger energetic resistance and problem down the way. Essentially, depression isn't the lack of happiness or joy, it's the lack of truth and emotion. When we feel like we can't be sad because it's Saturday. I always say that, but it's like a silly analogy, right? When we feel like we aren't allowed to be angry, right? So we have to button it up and put on this pretty face, right? That's essentially what causes sickness when we don't allow ourselves to be in expression freely and truly. So, if your truest, most rawest expression is sadness, let yourself be sad. Let yourself be really sad that day. Because then, if you don't resist it and you just surrender and say, okay, I'm just going to be sad today. You're going to notice that tomorrow you maybe wake up and you feel a little bit different. But if you're like, nope, can't be sad. Let me go get ready and go out and go tell everyone how happy and great life is. You're going to notice that the next day you feel worse. Right. So, again, this work isn't about being perfect or looking a certain way. It's about changing your relationship to your aliveness. How do I embody more truth? How do I create a more emotional safety in my body? Those are the gifts and the channels I would invite you to lean into. How am I feeling today? What's true for me? What do I need? What does my body need? Start there.
Exactly. In your body, like practically, we already know certain ways it communicates to us, like I'm hungry, or I need to go to the bathroom, or I need water, right? Or I need sleep. So like there's a primitive ways it communicates, but like emotionally, it's like I just need you to pay attention to me. Like I don't need anything else, just like look at me. It
Yeah.
really is that simple. But when we have this whole story about how we should be, either our own self-image or what other people think we should be, it creates so much resistance to what is, and you're swimming upstream against life. And no wonder you're exhausted because you're already in a low capacity season and you're spending all that energy resisting the low capacity season. So it's like any bit of energy you have gets depleted through your internal resistance. Versus, yeah,
Yes.
it's low capacity. I know what to do on low capacity days. It's days to be with myself. It's days to recharge my batteries. Maybe you still have responsibilities that you have to get done practically. Great. So my energy has to be allocated towards that stuff. But the rest of the time, I'm making myself the number one priority. And I was having a conversation with a client yesterday about this, but there's a lot of us that give, 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 and we've been known as givers. We're like the stable person in our families, the one that's most relied on. And when you hit these low capacity seasons and people have this impression about you that you're the reliant person, you feel all of this pressure that you have to show up and you put yourself like as the on the absolute back burner. And so what winter and low capacity teaches you is that you have to actually make yourself the number one priority because you can no longer sustain supporting all this stuff outside of you without supporting yourself first. And that's when it feels like people are crossing our boundaries faster, right? It's like the crap I used to be able to tolerate in a high capacity season. Now that I don't have the bandwidth, like everything seems to be pissing me off. Well, yeah, because it's life trying to get you to focus on you. So you can actually serve from a place of a cup overflowing and not from a place of depleting yourself. So, as much as that process can hurt because we lose the identity of being the stable one, we actually develop a much deeper roots to where we can fill our cup up no matter what season we're in, and there'll always be more left over for other people. But it's a very different way of thinking about it. And I just see a lot of people struggling, particularly with that identity of being the caregiver,
Yeah.
because we're all going through a collective winter. Everyone is dealing with the same chaos, right? So the people that have needed to put so much energetic output day in and day out, they're just getting crushed by it because everyone has low bandwidth. So I just think it's interesting this honoring the season of replenishment, deepening your roots. Winter in Minnesota and Michigan, it's like if you look at the trees, they look dead, right? Like there's
Yeah.
nothing on the outside that's glamorous. But what's happening beneath the surface is roots are deepening, soil's rearranging, there's a lot happening so that spring has something to spring off of. That's not obvious right away. So if we don't honor the deepening of the roots, if we're constantly in this should be different, then we come out of winter and we're just in a perpetual winter because we didn't actually get any of the nourishment from it. So again, this isn't just about giving you ideas to make you feel better. This is about giving you ideas to more consciously participate in the season that you're in, knowing that it is supporting you even if you don't like it. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that, Kaylin?
Oh, I think that's perfect. Complete.
Yes, that basically covers the talking points, but just to summarize it very briefly, honor relief. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, my God, we all could use a frickin' exhale. So honor that, but just understand too that relief isn't that's not the goal of your whole life. Like when you look back on your life, you're going to remember the times where it was tough and you persevered and you hung in there and you came out the other end. Those are the stories you're going to tell. You're not going to remember the times of like just how easy it was the whole time. So if you can sometimes tap into that perspective, if I'm in a tough period, this is my hero story, right? It has to hurt. That's the part of the story that I'm going to remember. Then we can get more on board with just participating in the journey, really getting to live out the juicy parts of the movie, not needing those to end quicker. And I think that perspective can be helpful. But to everyone that is new to the program, don't worry about the rewiring part. Just focus on feeling better right now. Bask in the
Don't
sunlight.
overcomplicate it.
Don't overcomplicate it. Enjoy that part, really. Like relish in it because there's nothing better than getting that first exhale. Oh my God, I'm not dying. Like there's
I will
nothing
say
better.
too, just a little like thing to add to that is also knowing that experiencing relief for the first time is also kind of a form of rewiring for your body. Because if your body has been in hypervigilance and survival for so long, it's like, oh wow, wait a minute. We can exhale, we can feel safe again, we can breathe. So I just like to say, even though it feels like you're just focusing on relief on a nervous system level and a somatic level, your body is also going, oh, wait a minute, it's safe not to be bracing for impact. And that's very important.
It's really the most caring thing you can do for your body when it's in that hypervigilant state, is to do whatever you can to give it a break. This works for that. So again, honor that process. And I think that concludes this one. We'll be back in a couple weeks with another one. Next week we'll do the Q&A. You have something, Kaylin?
Yeah, the only other thing I was going to say is that we're going to use the Q&As and transmission as a way to really give information, paradigm, and like perspective. Our coaching calls are where we're going to go deep to really help you integrate and embody and see what this looks like in real time. So if there's something here that you're like, oh, that doesn't make sense, or I'm not really sure how I would do that, please come join us on our integration calls. They're free for the next month, and we would love to get to support you and get to know you guys a little bit better. So please come hang out.
Yeah, we'd love to see you guys there. One other thing about that, if you have any questions about this specifically, what we talked about, you can also leave them below the video and we'll either respond in the comments thread or we'll just add them to the next Q&A. So, yeah, we want to make this as clear as possible. We know this is a lot of information, so no need to overwhelm yourself with it. We just like to give more conceptual understanding. But I think that's good for this one. And thanks again,
Yeah,
Keelan,
thank
for your
you.
time.
Thank you guys for being here.
Talk to y'all soon.